Today's kernel goes out to a new listener who goes by Slay by Tay on Instagram. She sent over a picture of my face on the TV screen at her dentist's office, and that's how she found out about the podcast. So first I want to say you clearly have an amazing dentist. Never stop going to this person. But also appreciate you coming over and checking out the show, and I hope you enjoy today's podcast. Hey, this is Chris. Hope you're doing well, and welcome to Popcorn Finance, the show where we discuss finance in about the time it takes to make a bag of popcorn. Today, I thought it would be fun to jump into an email that I received recently from a listener. This one comes in from April, and she wrote, "I'm an avid listener of your podcast. I love your show so much. I'm looking to buy a house in about a year, and I'm trying to get my credit score as high as possible. In general, I have been able to maintain a good credit score of around 780. However, I was just trying to see if I could get it to go higher to increase my chances of getting better loan interest rates." First of all, April, thank you so much for sending in that great question. But before we dive into how April should approach this situation when she's trying to get the best interest rate possible, let me give you a little bit of background on the credit score. When we most often talk about the credit score, we're referring to the FICO score. The FICO score is a proprietary score that's issued by the Fair Isaac Corporation. That's where the word FICO or the name FICO comes from. It's just a shortening of Fair Isaac Corporation. And so the FICO score is really a relatively new thing. It's only been around since about the 80s. So I guess depending on how old you are listening to this, that could feel like a really long time ago or a very short time ago. But it's something that was created to make the whole process of lending money to people simpler. Prior to the FICO score and other systems that were kind of used in the lead up to the FICO score, it got kind of messy. There was a lot of opinion and interpretation and discrimination used in the process of determining if someone should get credit. So the FICO score was created to hopefully make that all very simple. And when we jump forward to present time, although the FICO score is intended to make the lending process simpler, it can still be very complicated when it comes to how we as consumers and borrowers look at it, because there are actually various versions of the FICO score. There's versions out there that are used for credit cards, for auto loans, for mortgages. So you don't even have just one credit score. So that just makes things a little more confusing. But most people, when they're referring to the credit score and when we're looking at the range that score can fall in, they're typically referring to the credit score range that goes from about 300 on the low side up to 850. I've actually never met anyone with a 300 score. That's pretty difficult to get your score that low. And I've only met one person with an 850 credit score because it's pretty rare. Not many people have what you would call a quote unquote perfect credit score. It's natural, though, to think that if you have an 850 credit score, you'd have the very best rates. It's true to some extent. It does give you the best rate, but it's really not that simple. So after a quick break, I'm going to go in and break down what credit score you actually need to get the best rates out there. I host another podcast called This is Awkward along with my co-host Allison. And on this show, we discuss your awkward money situations like this one right here.
I know it's become more commonly acceptable to discuss finances openly for things like pay, but recently I had a friend who asked how much I make. My go-to response has always been, "Oh, I make enough," or "I'm comfortable." I keep it vague because I don't want others to feel like crap if they make less or expose myself to be taken advantage of financially. Normally, people kind of take the hint that I don't want to discuss this and back off. Not this friend. This friend pushed back and said, "I didn't ask if you were comfortable. I asked for a number."
So if you want to find out how we would handle this awkward money situation, or you want to send in your own situation for us to discuss on the podcast, search for This is Awkward on the podcast app you're listening to this show right now, or go to the show notes to find the link. So we know that the credit score ranges from 300 up to 850. The question here that we're getting from April is, what gets you the best interest rate overall? So when we're looking at what qualifies you for the best rate, they're looking at something called the prime rate. That's like the best, the top of the top interest rate, the lowest rate you're going to get from a lender. And so to qualify for that rate, you need to have a score that's in that prime range. And so the prime range would be anywhere from 740 up to 760. And it varies just because different lenders have different criteria and it can vary from place to place. But to be on the safe side, let's just say if you have a 760 FICO score, you're going to be getting, in most cases, the lowest interest rate offered for a mortgage, for an auto loan, things like that. And so that's why I tell people, don't stress about trying to get a perfect credit score or be down on yourself because your credit score is below 800, because really it doesn't matter. The goal that you're looking at is going to be around that 760 mark. So some of you may already be there, but you're down on yourselves because you're like, oh, my score could be higher. But it's really more of a vanity thing at that point. I mean, there may be some situations where having, an even higher credit score, maybe a lender's super strict and their criteria is going to be higher than 760. I would say double check with your lender, whoever you're planning on taking this loan out from, just confirm with them what credit score would qualify you for the best interest rate possible. April, I hope this helped. I hope this gives you a little more confidence going into this process, and congratulations on working towards buying a home. And if any of you out there listening have a question that you want to send in, you can be like April. You can email me at questions@popcornfinance.com, or come join me on Instagram. Send me a DM to search for @Popcorn Finance Podcast, and you can leave me your questions there. And also, I don't really talk about this much. There's a voicemail number. So if you want to call me and leave me a message, that way I can play it on the podcast, you can give me a call, 707-200-8259. As always, I appreciate you joining me here for another bag of popcorn. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I'll talk to you soon.
Your boy keep it poppin' like Mary Poppins.